yeah, I saw it go up for a second.
Yeah. Just give it a second here. Whoa, Jesus Christ. That's the best I've done. I smell hair.
Oh, damn. Can I try it?
Yeah. Shall we get that in the frame?
Don't drink this water.
Jesus Christ. That one was kind of spooky. That even surprised me. And I've been liking that water quite a bit.
It's really upsetting, actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's not supposed to do that.
Pretty amazing video, isn't it? Turns out this is happening in areas where oil fracking is already legal. Now, don't get me wrong, oil fracking definitely has its advantages and its disadvantages. However, it comes to a point where we have to decide what's more important, us, our economy, or our environment. During today's presentation, we'll be talking about the advantages, the disadvantages, what fracking is, the history of fracking, and we're going to go into their current events and a solution to what.
Gas from shale formation, long inaccessible because of their geology, has been unlocked in recent years by high-volume hydraulic fracturing, also known as fracking, which involves underground injection of millions of gallons of water mixed with sand and chemicals. The demand for water for fracking has already stalked intentions in the United States as the practice has spread to areas where water resources are limited, such as Texas and Colorado. Extracting natural gas for energy from shale rock deep underground requires lots of water, but much of the world's shale gas is in regions where the water is already scarce, including parts of California, according to scientists.
So what about the advantages?
The amount of recoverable natural gas from shale formation would increase global reserves by nearly half, the report from World Resource Institute found. That a potentially enormous boost of the international economy and the reduction of greenhouse gases that would cause climate change, as gas used for power generation burns more cleaner than coal.
Along with the fact that natural gas is used through oil fracking instead of coal, allowing us to have better air quality, jobs are created and the economic standing of the United States would be huge. Millions of high-paying jobs would be created, and the United States would be leading the world as the most efficient country. Now, economically, oil fracking sounds like a wonderful idea, and many people also agree with that. However, what part of the United States would we drill from? What would be the best area?
Worldwide, 38% of shale resources are located in regions that are either arid or under high extreme levels of water stress. East Coast shale gas deposits are in areas such as the Mid-Atlantic that have historically had adequate amount of water, but some of the most promising shale gas deposits is in the West and in places where there are far greater competition for more limited water resources, especially from agriculture. Looking at the oil and gas industry's use for water by states or regions is misleading because most of the fracking is done in a limited area. It can use nearly 100% of local water supply. Its environmental impact can be devastating. The United States has created a huge market for hydraulic fracking. In the late 1990s to early 2000s, the market for fracking was under 5 million, but now of recent years, starting from the year 2011, the market has tripled and made over 15 million in business.
While there are advantages to hydraulic fracking, there are also disadvantages. Let's take a look at a few. One disadvantage is the amount of water that is needed and used to complete each fracturing job. According to dangersofracking.com and the OEC.org, it takes an estimated 2 to 10 million gallons of water to complete one job. The water that is brought in is mixed with sand and a toxic blend of chemicals that creates fracking fluid. In the Gasland documentary, it states that there are over 600 different chemicals that the industry can pick from. Typically, 5 to 10 chemicals are used in a single frac job, but a well can be fracked multiple times, and each gas play consists of tens to hundreds of thousands of wells, driving up the number of chemicals ultimately used. Many fracking chemicals are protected from disclosure through various trade secret exemptions under state or federal law. However, scientists that analyze the fluid have identified chemicals such as formaldehyde, hydrochloric acids, boric acids, methanol, uranium, mercury, and hundreds of others. Companies use approximately 40,000 gallons of chemicals per fracturing job. So another disadvantage and huge concern over fracking is the ability for methane gas and toxic chemicals to leach out from the system. Now, while some of the fracking fluid remains underground, much of it is brought back to the surface as wastewater. That wastewater contains fracking chemicals as well as naturally occurring radioactive materials and metals found in the surrounding soil. The water waste is often pumped into holding ponds where it can leak and settle into surrounding groundwater. This can impact humans and wildlife. The contamination of groundwater is of major concern for those who live near drilling operations and rely on drinking water wells, and the contamination of watersheds that provide drinking water for millions of people in cities hundreds of miles away from any natural gas drills poses a significant threat as well. Methane concentrations are 17 times higher in drinking water wells near fracturing sites than in normal wells, and as you saw in the introduction video and here, the results are very dangerous. There have been over 1,000 documented cases of water contamination next to areas of gas drilling, as well as cases of sensory, respiratory, and neurological damage due to ingested contaminated water.
I can often hold a standard kitchen match to my water, and like I said, it is unpredictable, but the methane randomly travels with the water, and sometimes it will light quite spectacularly. Just like that.
Now, Chesapeake is going to say, well, there's natural occurring methane in the wells already. What do you have? What's your reply to a comment like that?
My reply is that their post-fracking test, their own, the methane tested 0.01 milligrams per liter, and since July of 2010, it has tested as high as 64 milligrams. So obviously something has changed. And usually you can, they say as long as it aerates, it's safe to drink, and usually you can see a little bit of gas just aerating out of there. I don't know whether you can see it or not. Sometimes you have to hold it just right.
Yep.
Only 30 to 50% of the fracturing fluid is recovered. The rest of the toxic fluid is left in the ground or in these ponds. The fracking fluid is not biodegradable. The waste fluid is left in open air pits to evaporate, releasing harmful VOCs, or volatile organic compounds. These VOCs enter into the atmosphere, creating contaminated air and acid rain. There is enough fossil fuels locked in bedrock shale formations under North American soil to make the United States energy independent. However, these fuels or gases are only limited. While there will be booms in jobs and the economy, these gases do not renew or regenerate. So once we have tapped out our resources, we will be left with these deep, large holes and holding ponds with chemically contaminated fluids.
It's all very interesting when you look on both sides of it, the advantages being economic and the disadvantages being environmental. How do we really want our grandchildren to live? How do we want to live? We really have no idea how long it'll take before we're tapped out of these natural gases. Now, here's Denise, an enthusiastic Denise, I might add, on summing up what we just heard in a little bit more eccentric
How long
way.
does a frac job take? On average, a single site can take up to 7 to 10 days. That's only the exchange of oil, gas, and water. In actuality, a job site can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months. When oil companies first establish a location, They level out the ground and provide housing for their employees. That's anywhere from 10 to 45 truckloads. After housing is established, building materials is brought in. Building materials can be anywhere from 40 to 65 truckloads. Each site needs hydraulic fracturing trucks, which can be anywhere from 150 to 200 truckloads. On average, a single drill utilizes 1,200 full truckloads from the beginning of the process till the end. In this image, there are 42 freshwater tanks, 6 chemical storage tanks, 3 trailers for housing or work, and 8 sand trucks. According to an article in stateimpact.org, this has been a big contribution to air pollution and is causing harm to those living near drill sites. What is fracking fluid? No one really knows. That information is not disclosed to the public. A few components that have been released is sand. A single drill site can use anywhere from 1.5 million to 6 million pounds of sand. Now, you could say that's not too bad. When looking at this picture and seeing all those drills, that's an immense amount of sand. Drilling sites have created sand mines, tearing apart small hills and mountains just for more sand. Fracking fluid is also known to have ethanol, hydrocarbon, and oil. One can try and say, oh, that's not too bad. As long as it doesn't come near me, I'm okay with it. But farmers, businesses, school, and homes have all been contaminated with the remainder of frack fluid. In states such as Colorado, Wyoming, and Pennsylvania, some of their water resources are water wells. Once their water wells are contaminated, their water looks like this. Ew, gross. I know. Homeowners were told that their water supply was fine to drink and shower in. No one wanted to drink the water. Homeowners and farmers asked oil companies for help to provide them with clean water, but oil companies would say it is not their fault that their water is contaminated unless proven guilty. The water had gotten so bad that most every homeowner near the drill sites had their water turned off. There were many incidences where houses went up in flames. The homeowners near the drill sites would have their water turned off because their water could catch on fire. What? Water catch on fire? Yep. The sad thing is, a single drill site can use anywhere from 2 to 10 million gallons of water. Now that's a lot of water. Where do they get all this water from, one could ask? Your local pond, lake, river, and streams. If you got it, they want it. Recently, there have been many studies that they have been drying out many of these lakes, rivers, and streams and are conflicting on what's to come in the near future.
Thank you, Denise, for summing that up. Now, most of all y'all are probably thinking, all right, so oil fracking is not environmentally friendly. But gas prices are down and I have to commute a lot. Well, turns out this might just be a temporary luxury. Well, some states such as North Carolina have legalized oil fracking. A small county here in California has stood their ground against the oil and gas industry. San Benito County made LA Times news on November 29, 2014, when its voters decided against oil fracking. Julie Card states in her article that, quote, fracking opponents here were vastly outspent by oil companies that fought a measure to ban well stimulation techniques such as fracking, acidizing, and steam injection, along with conventional drilling in some areas. With just $130,000, the homegrown campaign managed to draw 57% of San Benito County voters to the poll in a low-excitement midterm election. They held off oil companies that spent nearly $2 million opposing the initiative. As Avi mentioned earlier, natural gas is non-reusable, and oil fracking may be a short-term fix. There is no knowing how long it will last. Thank all y'all for listening, and now here's Ruth and Anthony with some solutions to oil fracking.